Okay, we got a really quick project, fun project, another book page project. And we're going to make these super simple pockets. I also have a piece of coffee dyed paper here where I have collaged different book pages onto the front, and we're going to make our tags out of that. So let me show you how these come together. Just to save time though, I have already picked out some book page and some decorations to put on the pocket. I'll put this here for reference. And all we're going to do, let's do these one at a time. We're going to need some lace for the bottom. We've got our little thing to put here in the corner. I've got some scraps that I collaged onto the front of the pocket. And then we've got some stickers. And since I'm doing a Christmas theme, I pulled out some stickers like this. All right, and I used, if you wanted to use stickers, I've got a Christmas sticker book here. You don't have to, but I put that there just in case I want to use it. All right, so what we're going to do is, this is an old book page. It is 2 book pages glued together just to give it nice sturdiness. And we're just simply going to roughly fold it into thirds. We want the edges to overlap. And if you've got book pages that are going to want to crack because you folded them, you probably want to stay away from that unless you want to reinforce the edges with something. I'm not going to glue this down yet, and I'm not even going to fold up the bottom. I'm okay with leaving the bottom as is. What I am going to do is ink these edges so that I can see them really good. I'm going to cut a notch here in the top. Let's ink that. Okay, so then I have 3 pieces of scrap that I just pulled out of my stash. I have some French ephemera. This is just a copy. It's not the real thing. Some scrap music paper, and literally this was pulled from my scraps. I've got this image here. I'm just going to cut off this little white edge and get that inked. All right, and then we're just going to glue these down. Okay, and then this will go down in the corner. I'll put some stickers on here, but before we do any of that, I want to let this glue dry, and I'm going to stitch around this center piece. I did not do it on this, but it's certainly optional. Okay, so this is one where there's no stitching, and these 2 I'm going to stitch. Okay, so I'll put this one aside, and we'll go ahead and get this one glued down. Again, we're going to fold our book pages into thirds, just overlapping just ever so slightly. Of course, your book pages will determine the size of your pocket as well. So let's cut our notch. And this that I'm using is actually inkjet printer fabric. So I'm going to use Fabri-Tac on the back of this. And it's just an old vintage Christmas print. It's actually an advertisement for it. Looks like some sort of sweet. Okay, while all of that's drying, and the other thing that I want to mention is the back of this is going to show, so we're going to want to ink our pages on this side as well, just so that I just go ahead and ink all the way across. Just to be on the safe side. Do the same thing with this one. Okay, I'm also going to go ahead and add my lace at the bottom. Okay, while those things are drying, we could go ahead and cut out some tags for our pockets. Now, I don't know if all of my tags are the same size, so let's just... So that one's a little over 3 3/4. Exactly the same. And this one is slightly less than 3 3/4. So if we make our tags, if we cut this into 3.5-inch strips, will be good for each of the pockets. It gives us plenty of room. So let me get my paper trimmer here. And let's go ahead and cut this to 3.5 inches. Let me see how much of this is. We need to chop off the bottom. So that ends up being just slightly more than 5 inches tall. Okay, so there's one tag, and we can use this for something else. So I'll just do them all the same. 3.5 inches by just a little bit more than 5 inches tall. And then 3.5 inches again. Okay, so these will make good journaling cards, right? On these, I'm going to round my corners. Cut a little tag shape. Right, I'm going to find the center of my tag. just going to punch a hole to put some eyelets in. I'm going to go through all 3 of them at once. You can sew around these if you wanted to. I glued these very heavily, and they've been sitting under my mat for like 2 or 3 days, so I know that the paper is down there securely, but sewing around the edges is definitely an option. All right, so we're going to set these aside for now, and this should be dry enough for me to go do my sewing on, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come right back. Okay, I have sewn around this focal point on both of the pockets. Right now I'm going to flatten my stitches on this side so my tag doesn't get caught. All right, and I did a zigzag stitch just across the lace, just for fun. All right, so the next thing we want to do now is go ahead and add our little pieces down here in the corner. And what am I going to use here? I'm going to take 3. These are pretty sticky, so I'm not going to add any glue. Put these right there on the bottom. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac to put this on. Actually, before I put the flower on, I'm going to glue the pocket up just to be on the safe side. All right, so we want to glue across the bottom. We want to glue down this side right here. And we want to glue down this side right here. Whoops. Now just peek down in there and make sure you didn't get any glue on anything you shouldn't have. Make the pocket stick together. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, let's glue this down. All right, let's do this one. All right, everything looks really good. And on this one, I think I'll use red. Now, if you're going to stick something like this on the lace, I would definitely use some Fabri-Tac. For this one, I did put it on the lace, and so I used Fabri-Tac. But this I'm putting directly on the paper. Let's go ahead and glue this down. Come on. He looks kind of lonesome. Yeah, I like that much better. Okay, so there's our 3 pockets, and I think they look awesome. All right, now for these, we're going to go ahead and put some seam binding. Okay, so I'll show you how this would work. You can either clip this on to your page, which would also be pretty. You can glue it down, maybe on 2 sides and have a tuck. That's also a great idea. Or you can just plain old glue it all the way down to the page. I just think this is a super fun project. You know, I certainly have not reinvented the wheel here. I'm sure you've seen lots of people do this. I just love using book pages and making simple things that have big impact. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about anything that you saw me do, please leave your questions in the comments below, and I'll be so happy to answer them. Okay, guys, before we close the video, I wanted to share with you another Bible verse. This is Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, which says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ." This passage is more than just a comforting verse. It's a practical guide for how we can face life's daily challenges with faith instead of fear. When we take a closer look, Paul gives us 4 clear steps that help us replace anxiety with peace and draw closer to God in every situation. Number 1, don't let worry take over. Pray instead. And I am sure all of us can relate to this. Paul's words, "be careful for nothing," mean don't be anxious about anything. In daily life, this reminds us that when stress, fear, or uncertainty arise, whether about work, health, family, or even finances, we don't have to carry that burden alone. Instead of letting our minds spiral into worry, we can stop and pray, handing the situation over to God. Secondly, bring everything to God. The verse says, "In everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God." This encourages us to talk to God about all areas of life, not just big problems. Whether it's a small frustration or a major life decision, God invites us to include Him in it. By doing this daily, prayer becomes a natural part of how we process life's ups and downs. Number 3, Pray with gratitude, not just request. Notice the phrase, with thanksgiving. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have. When we thank God even in difficult times, it strengthens our faith and helps us see His goodness working around us. This attitude transforms anxiety into trust. And fourth, experience true peace beyond understanding. The promise in verse 7, the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. This reminds us that God's peace isn't dependent on circumstances. It's a calm and steady assurance that He is in control even when we don't understand how everything will work out. This peace guards our hearts and minds from fear, helping us stay centered in faith rather than overwhelmed by worry. So in summary, make it a daily practice to 1, begin each morning with a short prayer of gratitude and surrender. 2, when anxiety starts to rise, pause and talk to God about it immediately. 3, keep a thankful list to remind yourself of His past faithfulness. And 4, end the day reflecting on how His peace carried you through the day. So guys, I hope that helps you in some way if you have a need to find peace in your life. And I thank you so much for joining me today and spending your time with me. And I hope you have a very blessed day. And I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.